We are discussing with the chapter of employment. So let us discuss the next topic, that is the size of the workforce in India. So in the previous classes we have already discussed about the definition of the workforce and also um, the difference between labor supply and the labor force, self-employed and hired workers, the different types of hired workers. All this we have discussed in a previous video. So those who haven't gone to the video, please go through it. Okay, so let us discuss with the size of the workforce in India. India has a workforce nearly about 471 millions of persons. Now here about 77% of the workforce comprises of the male workers and 23% of the female workers. Nearly 75% or 3/4 of the workforce is found in the rural areas. Urban workforce is only 25%, or we can tell 1/4 of the total. Now, female workforce in the rural area is nearly 25%, or we can tell 1/4 of the total rural workforce, while it is 20% or 1/5 of the total workforce in the urban areas. Next topic is that why is the bulk of our workforce rural based? What is the reason? Now this is simply because the bulk of the jobs are in rural areas. It doesn't mean that the bulk of our GDP is derived from the rural economy, implying that more people are engaged in the farming and allied activities but contributing less to the GDP. For instance, the rural economy in India employs nearly 50% of the workforce but contribute less than 20% of the GDP. This means low productivity of the workers in the rural areas. Low productivity means low earnings, which is why there is a widespread poverty in the rural areas. Now let's move on to the next topic, that is why is the percentage of the female worker low and lower still in the urban areas? So here also we are going to give 3 reasons for this question. Female education in India is still a far cry, implying lower opportunities of job. Among most families in the urban area, job work for women is still governed by the family decisions rather than the individual's own decision, implying that even the available opportunities are not actually utilized. Next is higher employment among the women in the rural area is owing to widespread rural poverty. Female workers in the rural area are largely engaged in low paid and less productive jobs just to add to their family income. Many of them are given wages in terms of grain during the harvesting season, the season when they find most jobs. So what we can see that low employment among the women is a sign of social and economic backwardness of the nation. Economic backwardness because the economy failed to generate enough jobs. Social backwardness because the job work for the women are considered as a social taboo. Now let us discuss the next topic, that is the rate of participation across the rural and the urban areas. High dependency ratio. Now overall rate of the participation in the country is not very high, implying not many people are engaged in the production activity. It points to a high dependency ratio. Dependency ratio means a ratio the number of the dependent, that is the age group of 0 to 14 and over 65 years to the total population aged 15 to 65. Next, high rate of participation but low level of productivity in the rural area. The rate of participation is higher in the rural area compared to that of the urban area, implying that larger percentage of population is engaged in the production activity in the rural area But the fact is that the contribution of the rural economy to GDP is lower than that of the urban economy. Higher rate of participation of the rural areas only points to lower productivity, lower level of income, and greater poverty in the rural areas. Next, high rate of participation for women in the rural areas. Rate of participation of the women in the rural areas compared to that of the urban areas. In rural areas, we can see out of 100 women, 18 women participate in employment, while in the urban area, only 14 women are engaged in employment. Now, out of the 100 urban women, now following three observations support the fact is that in the rural areas, poverty compels women to avoid education and seek employment. Thus, employment even without education is a priority. When employment and not education is a priority, women tend to seek employment at the early age. This also raises the rate of participation in the rural areas. Preference for even less productive jobs. It also sets in motion the vicious cycle of low productivity, low wage, and high rate of participation in the rural areas. It works like this, that is, entry to the new job without education, less productive jobs, low rate of wage, high rate of participation to make sustainable living. In the urban areas, on the other hand, high priority is given to the education. Implies low priority for job at the early age. So this keeps the rate of participation relatively low. Now here one more point you have to remember is that women rendering household services as housewives are not deemed as worker because they are not paid for it, and also it is difficult to ascertain the market value of the services rendered by the housewives. Women rendering services on the family farms in the rural areas and in the family business in the urban areas are often not treated as workers, largely because of the convention of not considering unpaid women as workers. Even when unpaid men working in a family firms or in the family business are considered as employed and therefore as a worker. Now the next topic is that distribution of the workers by region and gender. Now here in urban areas, people look for the skilled jobs in offices and factories, while in the rural areas, family farms are most attractive means of employment. In rural areas, non-farm job opportunities are limited. Accordingly, people generally do not show preference to acquire skill and training for non-farm occupations. They prefer to stay on family farms and fields as self-employed. Both the factors imply that self employment is an easy option in the rural areas. These factors simply imply that the proportion of the salaried workers is quite high in the urban areas as compared to that of the rural areas. The proportion of the casual wage laborers is higher in the rural areas, that is 29%, as compared to that of the urban area, which is 15%. This is because agriculture is a seasonal in nature and generates employment primarily during sowing and harvesting season. Next, we can also see that the both male and female workers self-employ is a predominant source of livelihood compared to that of the regular salaried employed or the casual wage employment. Employment percentage is in the form of casual workers is slightly higher for the women, which is 27%. That means casual wage workers is higher for the women than for the men. This is because a low level of education but high compulsion for the jobs to make the sustainable living for their family, women are ready to work even at the low wage. Self-employment among the women is almost as significant as wage employment, that is regular plus casual, both we can consider here. This is just because the women in the rural areas find ample opportunities of self-employment, engaging themselves in traditional jobs like spinning, weaving, dyeing and bleaching. Now in India, self-employment is a significant source of livelihood. Why? Because literacy rate is here low, implying low acquisition of skill for wage jobs. Owing to diverse social environment across different regions, mobility of the workers is low over here. India is a developing economy generating less jobs owing to low level of investment.